Have you ever wondered what occurs when you finally stop seeking someone and how that simple action can shift the entire dynamic of your relationship? You are in the right place because today we will delve into the potent Stoic strategy of stepping back, allowing them to realize what they have lost. This is not about playing games. It is about embracing your worth and allowing it to speak louder than words. As the timeless wisdom states, absence makes the heart grow fonder. And in that lies the profound truth we seek today. Sometimes it is in stepping back that our presence becomes genuinely appreciated. Today we are not merely talking about stepping back. We are discussing reclaiming your power with an intensity that leaves an unforgettable mark. Imagine the strength it takes to withdraw your attention and focus solely on your own growth, rising above the noise and letting your silence speak volumes. This is not simply about making them feel your absence. It is about transforming yourself into someone so resilient, so self-assured, that they cannot help but feel the void you have left behind. Each principle we will explore today is a stepping stone toward becoming someone who commands respect and admiration. You will become someone deeply missed, not because you disappeared, but because you have become more powerful in your absence. This is your moment to rise, to show both them and yourself that your worth is beyond measure. However, before we dive into this, I have a challenge that will set the tone for what's to unfold. If you are ready to step into your power and let your silence echo louder than any words, drop a comment below with the phrase, "My absence will speak for me." This is not merely a statement, it is a declaration of your strength, your resolve, and your commitment to becoming unforgettable. It is time to show the world and yourself that you are not just stepping back. You are stepping up in a way that will make them feel your absence like never before. Let us see how many of you are prepared to embrace this powerful shift and make your presence undeniable, even when you are not physically there. Are you ready, Stoic friends? Let's go. Before we dive into these 10 key points, let's begin with a thought experiment that will lay the foundation for what's to come. It is crucial, so do not skip it. Imagine you are the sun in someone's life. You provide the warmth that brightens their day and the energy that fuels their happiness. Now picture what happens when that sun suddenly disappears. The world becomes colder, a little dimmer. The warmth once taken for granted is now a distant memory, and the absence is felt more deeply with each passing day. What do you think happens next? Do they simply move on, or do they begin to realize the value of what they have lost? Now consider someone in your life who used to be a significant part of your daily routine. Perhaps it was a friend, a partner, or a colleague. Think about how often you used to interact with them. The little messages, the quick phone calls, the casual encounters. These moments, seemingly insignificant at the time, formed the foundation of your daily existence. They were a part of your routine, ingrained into the rhythm of your life, yet you never truly realized how much they mattered until they suddenly ceased. Now imagine that one day those interactions stop, not because of an argument or a disagreement, but simply because you chose to step back and focus on yourself. You no longer send that morning text. You do not initiate plans. Suddenly there is an unmistakable silence. It's like walking into a room where the music has stopped playing. This silence is more than just the absence of messages or presence. It is a deeper kind of shock. It is the recognition that something essential is missing. At first, they might not have acknowledged it consciously, but now they begin to realize that your presence had been a constant, like background music that they took for granted. Now, with that music gone, they are left in a quiet that resonates through their entire life. And in that quiet, they begin to wonder, what happened? Why aren't they reaching out? Did I do something wrong? This sudden shift is unsettling, and it forces them to confront the reality of your absence. It's in this disruption of their normal routine that they begin to grasp what they've lost. The silence becomes loud, almost deafening, and in that void, they begin to feel the weight of your absence. It is important to remember what Rumi once said, "The quieter you become, the more you are able to hear." In this case, the quieter you become, the more they start to hear the echo of your absence. They may have taken your presence for granted, assuming you would always be there. But now that you've stepped back, they are forced to reckon with what life is like without you. You might wonder, but what if they don't care? What if my absence doesn't affect them at all? This is a valid concern, one that many of us fear. But here's the truth. If they truly don't care, if your absence doesn't even cause a ripple, then that speaks volumes. It tells you that perhaps this relationship was not as meaningful as you believed. And while that is difficult to face, it provides invaluable clarity about where you stand. Think of it this way. Imagine you're at a concert and suddenly one of the instruments stops playing. If the music continues on without a noticeable change, it means that instrument wasn't essential to the performance. But if the absence of that instrument creates an obvious gap, a feeling that something is missing, then you begin to understand just how integral it was. The same is true for relationships. If your absence doesn't make a difference, it may mean that you weren't playing the role you thought you were. And that's okay, because it allows you to move forward with a clearer understanding of where you truly stand. However, in most cases, the absence does make an impact. It shakes things up and forces them to confront their emotions. They may start to understand that your presence was not just a convenience, but a vital source of comfort and stability. As they sit with that realization, your absence will begin to speak for you. It will echo in their thoughts and make them understand just how much they miss having you around. This silence, this absence, is your moment to shine, not because you've disappeared, but because in your absence they realize how much you truly contributed to their life. This shock of silence can be a powerful wake-up call. It is the first step in shifting the dynamics of the relationship, a moment where they are forced to reflect on what they had and to realize that perhaps they took you for granted. And in that realization, the seeds of longing and appreciation begin to grow. They start to understand that your presence was not just an accessory to their life, but an essential part of it. Now let us move on to the first powerful realization they experience when you stop looking for them, the shock of silence. Imagine this scenario. You have always been the reliable one, the person who texts first, who makes the plans, who checks in just to see how their day is going. But one day, you decide to step back. You stop sending that morning text. You no longer initiate plans. And suddenly there is an undeniable silence. It is like stepping into a room where the music has abruptly stopped. This silence is not just about the absence of messages or your presence. It runs much deeper. It is a profound shock, the kind that shakes the foundation of their daily rhythm. They may not have realized it before, but now they are confronted with the truth that your presence had been a constant, like background music that played without notice. Now that it has ceased, they are left with an overwhelming quiet, a void that forces them to acknowledge what is missing. And in this silence, they begin to ask themselves questions. What happened? Why aren't they reaching out? Did I do something wrong? This sudden shift catches them off guard. It is the disruption of their usual comfort zone, and it forces them to reflect on the loss. The silence becomes deafening. It no longer just represents the absence of words. It becomes a loud reminder of their realization that something significant is gone. This is a key moment. Remember what the poet Rumi said, "The quieter you become, the more you are able to hear." In this case, the quieter you become, the more they will hear the echo of your absence in their life. They may have taken your presence for granted, assuming you would always be there, always reaching out. But now with your absence, they are forced to listen, to truly hear what they have lost. You may be wondering, but what if they don't care? What if my absence doesn't make a difference? This is a valid concern, and one that many people wrestle with when they consider stepping back. However, the truth is that if your absence does not even cause a ripple, that in itself is telling. It suggests that perhaps this relationship was not as meaningful as you thought. And while that realization may be painful, it offers clarity, a chance to move forward with greater understanding of where you stand. Think of it as a concert, where one instrument suddenly stops playing. If the music continues on without any noticeable change, it means that instrument was not essential to the harmony. But if the absence of that instrument creates a noticeable gap, then you understand just how crucial it was to the overall performance. The same principle applies to relationships. If your absence makes no difference, it might signal that you were not as integral to their life as you believed. And that is okay, because it allows you to reassess the situation and understand your role in the relationship with greater clarity. However, more often than not, the shock of your absence will indeed create an impact. It will force them to reflect on their feelings and realize just how important you were to them. As they sit with that realization, your absence will begin to speak for you. It will resonate in their thoughts, making them reflect on all that you contributed. This silence will not be empty. It will be full of meaning, full of the unspoken truth of what your presence meant to them. It is in this silence that they will finally understand the weight of what has been lost. This shock of silence can be a powerful wake-up call. It shakes the foundation of their world, forcing them to confront their own feelings and take stock of what they had. It is a moment that leads them to reflect on the value of your presence and how much it truly mattered. It is in this moment of reflection that the seeds of longing and appreciation begin to grow. They begin to realize that your presence was not a mere convenience, but a vital part of their life. The shock of your absence will not only make them aware of what they lost, but it will also make them question their own actions, their own priorities. It will compel them to examine how they treated you and what they took for granted. This realization is the beginning of a shift in the dynamic. They start to understand that your presence was not just something they expected. It was something they valued deeply. And that understanding will begin to change how they view both you and the relationship. After the shock of silence, the realization of your value, and the void left in your absence, something intriguing begins to unfold. The rise of curiosity. As they adjust to this new reality, something deeper takes root within them, a desire to understand what has changed. It is not simply about wondering why you stopped reaching out, but a profound curiosity about your life, your world, now that you are no longer a constant presence in theirs. Imagine them scrolling through their phone, and suddenly they notice it's been days, maybe even weeks, since they've heard from you. They begin to ask themselves questions. What are they doing now? Are they okay? Are they moving on without me? This curiosity is not just a passing thought. It is a persistent pull that compels them to seek answers, to understand what has been happening in your life since you stepped back. This curiosity becomes an irresistible force, one that gradually draws them in. No longer able to rely on the constant updates or the steady connection you once shared, they begin to search for clues, perhaps checking your social media, asking mutual friends, or simply wondering what you're up to. Their need to know more becomes a quiet obsession as they try to piece together the narrative of your life without them in it. What is fascinating here is that this curiosity isn't just about discovering what you are doing. It's about understanding who you are becoming. You are no longer the person they knew so well, the person who was always available and predictable. Now, in your absence, you have become an enigma, someone who is constantly evolving and becoming more intriguing with each passing day. As Aristotle wisely said, "The more you know, the more you realize you don't know." This quote perfectly captures the essence of curiosity. The more they begin to realize they don't know about you, the more their desire to understand deepens. They begin to recognize that the person they thought they understood is not who you are today. In stepping back, you have created a mystery, a layer of depth to your character that they can no longer take for granted. When you were always there, when you were predictable, they never needed to wonder about you. They knew exactly where you were and what you were doing. But now, that certainty is gone. They find themselves questioning who you've become, what you've been up to, and how your life has unfolded without them in it. Your absence has created a void of uncertainty, and that uncertainty has ignited a spark of fascination. This growing intrigue begins to shift how they see you. No longer are you merely the person they once took for granted. You have become someone who is evolving, someone who is challenging their assumptions, someone who is now more complex than they ever realized. It is in this transformation that the real power of your absence lies. You have become more than just a presence in their life. You have become someone they long to understand. As this curiosity intensifies, they may begin to look back at the moments they spent with you and see them through new eyes. They might start to reflect on the conversations you had, the ways you impacted their thoughts and actions, and wonder how much more they missed about you when you were right in front of them. This shift is both a recognition of your value and a realization of how much they took you for granted. The curiosity that grows within them is not merely about trying to fill in the gaps of what they don't know. It is a desire to understand the person you are becoming. You are no longer just someone they expected to be there. You have become someone who is self-sufficient, someone whose life they can no longer predict, and that unpredictability is both captivating and powerful. As this curiosity builds, they are drawn to you not just because of who you were, but because of who you are becoming. In your absence, you have become more than just a part of their past. You have become a compelling figure in their future. And as they sit with their curiosity, they realize that the person they once knew is gone, replaced by someone who is stronger, more independent, and more intriguing than they ever imagined. As curiosity grows within them, something even deeper begins to emerge: the growth of longing. This is not merely a fleeting desire to hear from you or see you again. It is a persistent, deepening feeling that steadily builds over time. The more they wonder about you, the more they begin to miss you, not just your presence, but everything that made your relationship special. Imagine them going about their day, but with every small reminder, their longing intensifies. A song that used to play when you were together, a place you once visited, or even a random phrase that triggers a memory of something you said. All of these little things stir within them a yearning that becomes harder to ignore. This longing doesn't just grow in response to the big moments, but thrives in the quiet, everyday exchanges you once shared. This yearning becomes more powerful as the days go by without hearing from you. It is like thirst that can't be quenched, a hunger for something that they now realize is irreplaceable. They start to realize that it is not just the absence of someone to talk to. They miss you specifically. The way you listened, the way you made them feel understood, the way you brought warmth and clarity into their life. Longing is a powerful force because it grows in the spaces where connection used to be. And as the days pass and the absence of that connection becomes more pronounced, they begin to understand how much they took you for granted. In their desire for reconnection, they realize that your absence is not a simple gap. It is a profound void that nothing else seems to fill. This longing does more than just remind them of what they've lost. It transforms their perspective. As the French writer Marcel Proust once said, "The real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes." Longing allows them to see you and their relationship through a different lens, one of deeper appreciation and recognition. The longing that grows within them becomes a vehicle for new awareness. As this longing intensifies, they begin to see the relationship in a different light. They start to appreciate all the things they may have overlooked before, the little gestures, the conversations, the shared moments that seemed ordinary at the time, now seem like treasures they wish they had cherished more. They realize that your presence wasn't just a background to their life, it was the melody that gave it meaning. This longing is not just an emotional pull, it is a reckoning with the past. It is an acknowledgement of their own role in the dynamics of the relationship and the realization that they might not have given you the attention or care you deserved. And as this awareness grows, they begin to see the depth of their own feelings they may have suppressed or ignored while you were there. Now, in your absence, those feelings resurface, and they are impossible to ignore. The more they long for your presence, the more they realize that nothing else seems to compare. No distraction, no new acquaintance, no momentary pleasure can fill the void you left behind. Your absence has left a mark on them, and that mark cannot be erased by anyone or anything else. They begin to understand that what they had with you was unique and irreplaceable. This longing is both a source of pain and a catalyst for growth. As the longing grows, they begin to reflect on what they lost and how they can move forward. The longing is not just about what they want, it is about what they now understand they need. It is about the lessons learned in the absence of what once was. It forces them to question how they approach the relationship and what they might do differently if given the chance to reconnect. As this longing continues to deepen, they begin to realize that it is not just a desire for the past, it is a desire for a future that includes you. They want to rebuild what was lost, but with the wisdom gained from this time apart. They yearn not just for the familiarity of the old relationship, but for something new, something stronger, something more appreciative of the value you brought to their life. This longing becomes the foundation of their desire for reconnection, one that is now grounded in deeper understanding and respect. And as the longing deepens, another powerful emotion begins to take root: the sting of regret. After curiosity and longing have had their effect, regret starts to emerge, not as a fleeting thought, but as a sharp, painful realization. They begin to understand that they did not fully appreciate you when you were in their life. This regret is not just a simple feeling of wishing things had been different. It is an awareness of what they have lost and how they failed to recognize the value of what was right in front of them. They start to replay the moments when you reached out, when you showed up for them, when you made sacrifices. They remember the times you listened patiently, the advice you gave, the ways you supported them, only to realize that they took those gestures for granted. The regret they feel now is profound. It is a recognition of their own negligence and a sense of loss that cannot be easily erased. Regret often comes with a string of if-only thoughts. If only they had been more attentive. If only they had reciprocated your efforts. If only they had appreciated you for who you truly were. These thoughts sting because they highlight missed opportunities, moments that cannot be recaptured. It is a painful acknowledgement that they allowed something valuable to slip through their fingers, and now they must face the consequences of that negligence. Yet in this regret, there is also a potential for growth. Stoicism teaches that while we cannot change the past, we can change how we approach the future. This regret, though painful, is not just about dwelling on mistakes. It is an invitation to learn, to reflect, and to adjust our behaviors moving forward. They will start to see that this regret can serve as a turning point. It can be the catalyst for their own transformation, if they allow it to be. The sting of regret is not a punishment, but rather an opportunity for clarity. It is a chance for them to see where they went wrong and to ask themselves why they took you for granted. Regret has a way of cutting through the distractions and forcing them to face the truth. In doing so, it opens the door to personal growth. If they are willing to learn from this experience, they can make amends and become better versions of themselves in the process. 56. As they sit with the weight of their regret, they begin to reflect on the role they played in the relationship's dynamics. They may start to recognize patterns in their behavior that they have ignored in the past, times when they were too focused on their own needs or too complacent to notice how much you gave. This process of introspection is uncomfortable, but it is necessary. It is through this reflection that they can grow and evolve into someone more aware of their actions and their impact on others. Regret also serves as a reminder of the fleeting nature of time and relationships. It forces them to confront the reality that once something is lost, it may never return in the same form. This can be a sobering realization, but it is also a powerful motivator to make changes in how they approach future relationships. They begin to see that time is precious and that they must not squander the opportunities they have to truly appreciate the people in their lives. In many ways, regret is a wake-up call, a moment when they realize the cost of their inaction or neglect. It's a sharp reminder that they have a choice: to wallow in their regret or to use it as fuel for change. If they choose the latter, they will begin to take responsibility for their actions, seek redemption where possible, and strive to be the kind of person who truly appreciates the value of others. As they feel the weight of regret, they begin to question their own priorities. They may wonder if they have been too focused on trivial things, neglecting what truly matters: connections, understanding, and genuine care. The pain of regret serves as a guide, helping them to recalibrate and realign their values. It is a call to action, urging them to become more present, more mindful, and more attuned to the people who enrich their lives. Regret, in its most honest form, does not simply stay as a feeling. It propels them into action. It drives them to reach out, to make amends, and to try to rebuild what has been lost. This desire to reconnect is not rooted in desperation, but in a deeper understanding of what truly matters. They realize that the relationship they once had with you was not just a passing phase, but a connection that enriched their life in ways they didn't fully understand until now. In the end, regret has the potential to become the greatest teacher. Through it, they learn the invaluable lesson that nothing in life should be taken for granted. Their longing for you, combined with their regret, will push them to not only seek reconciliation, but also to approach future relationships with a newfound sense of gratitude and appreciation. The regret they feel now will eventually become the foundation for a deeper, more meaningful connection, whether with you or with others in their life. 10 signs people are completely fake with you. Stoicism. Have you ever felt as though you've given your trust and sincerity only to receive doubt and confusion in return? How many times have you quietly wondered whether the person standing before you truly cares or if they're simply playing a role in your life? Deep down, you may fear that you're being used, that sweet words and kind gestures are nothing but a facade for hidden agendas. Deception in relationships doesn't merely wound our hearts, it gradually erodes our trust in ourselves and in others. Perhaps you resist accepting the notion that someone close to you is only around for their own personal gain. Yet small actions, insincere words, and half-truths slowly reveal their true nature. How do we avoid drowning in suspicion, losing our inner peace every time we sense insincerity? Stoicism, with its calm, profound, and insightful principles, can guide us not only in recognizing deceit, but also in confronting it with a steady mind. Stoics believe that maintaining clarity and inner peace is the key to navigating relationships tainted with hidden motives. In this piece, we'll explore 7 unmistakable signs that someone is entirely fake with you. These lessons go beyond simply identifying others' deceit. They lead us on a journey to understand that the strength of a resilient mind and a steady spirit is our best defense against negativity. Let's dive into each sign to discover the Stoic path of overcoming deception with calm resilience. Before we begin, I have a small challenge for you. Watch until the end to see how many of these signs you've encountered in your own relationships. Now let's get started. Sign 1. They never reach out to you first. A fake friend is someone who only appears when you reach out first or when they need something from you. This can leave you feeling disappointed, as though you're the only one keeping the relationship alive. As a Stoic, I wouldn't advise cutting ties immediately with such people. Rather, I encourage you to understand human nature more deeply and learn to let go of expectations toward others. When someone never initiates contact, it's a sign they may view you merely as a secondary connection, a source of benefit when needed, or simply lack genuine commitment. Imagine a friend who only calls when they need help or feel down. Does that feel like a genuine, lasting relationship? Probably not. Because a sincere connection is one where both sides willingly give and receive, without one person having to sustain it. Ask yourself, if I stopped reaching out, would this person make an effort to stay in touch? Give yourself a break from initiating contact and see what happens. If they truly care, they'll notice your absence and make an effort to reconnect. If they don't, you may have found your answer. Their lack of initiative also suggests you may be outside their close circle. This becomes apparent when you're left out. Parties you weren't invited to, gatherings you only hear about through social media or others. These occasions happen without you, as if they've naturally excluded you from the moments a true friend would share. These signs are not just about a lack of initiative, but reflect a deeper lack of care. If you're always the one reaching out while they make no effort to connect, they've likely limited your role in their life. You may have invested time and emotion into this relationship, but the reality is they don't value your presence. This doesn't just leave you feeling abandoned, it makes you question your worth in their eyes. Imagine a friend you've always considered close. You frequently text, check in, and invite them out for coffee or a movie. But when you get busy and stop initiating, they vanish. No messages, no calls, no check-ins. At that moment, feeling let down is inevitable. However, a Stoic would view this as a valuable lesson rather than a wound. As Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Their disappearance may be what happens to you, but how you respond is the true measure. You can choose to feel betrayed and disappointed, or you can face the reality that they don't truly care. Instead of expecting from them, focus on managing your own emotions and gradually learning to let go. Stoicism teaches us that expectations are often the root cause of disappointment. In any relationship, If we place too much hope in others acting the way we want, we'll easily feel hurt when they don't. Learn to view each connection realistically and keep yourself proactive in how you respond. In truth, when you accept another person's lack of initiative without letting it affect you, you're cultivating a peace that comes from within, a tranquility that doesn't rely on any validation from others. You might ask yourself, if they don't truly value me, am I willing to let go? Once you can answer that question with confidence, you'll find yourself feeling freer than ever. Those who don't reach out may simply have a different way of expressing their feelings or may not genuinely value the relationship. But as a Stoic, you don't need to judge or react negatively. Instead, seek understanding and acceptance. Focus on building inner strength and pursue more sincere relationships. Ultimately, remember, in any relationship, the most important thing isn't whether others make an effort toward you, but whether you're strong enough not to rely on their attention. That is the Stoic way, to live with calm and resilient strength. Sign 2, they're never there when you need them. A true friend will stand by you, shoulder your burdens when life gets tough, without hesitation. A false friend, however, only shows up when there's something in it for them. They may seem caring and close, tricking you into thinking you're important to them. Yet when you truly face hardship and need support, they vanish without a trace, leaving you to face challenges alone. Have you ever wondered why, when you need help, they always seem to have an excuse to be absent? It's because to them, the relationship only exists as long as they're benefiting from it. When you're vulnerable or going through a rough patch, such friends feel you no longer hold value for them. They come around when they need something, but the moment they get it, they're quick to find the exit. It's a one-sided connection. If you look back and ask yourself if they've ever been there when you felt lost or hurt, the answer is likely no. Imagine you're going through a challenging time at work, feeling the weight of high expectations and exhaustion. Desperate for someone to listen, to offer advice, you call the person you once thought of as a close friend, someone you've been there for whenever they needed. But when you reach out, they don't pick up or give excuses about being busy, promising to get back to you later. You wait, but they never do. That's when you realize this friendship only holds value when you're the giver, and they only appear when there's something in it for them. Sometimes you might need temporary financial support, a small loan you expect to easily obtain from someone who once promised to help. You've supported them before, whether with money or valuable advice to get through tough times. But when you reach out, all you receive are discouraging reasons, like they can't afford it, or they're facing personal challenges. Yet you know they're not in any real bind and continue to indulge in their own pleasures. You see clearly that the kindness you offered has gone unreciprocated, and this relationship is nothing but a one-way street. In many cases, these fair-weather friends justify their absence with convincing reasons. They'll claim to be busy, dealing with personal issues, or tied up with urgent matters. But these excuses are often just a mask for their selfishness and lack of sincerity. A true friend doesn't make up lies to avoid you during hard times. They're willing to show up and listen, even if they're struggling themselves. Sometimes we need to ask ourselves, does this friendship bring value and meaning? Or is it merely a temporary arrangement based on convenience? A genuine friend will show up even when there's nothing in it for them. They'll listen with an open heart, without expecting anything in return. Conversely, a false friend will always take without giving. Have you ever felt that when you've given your all to help someone, they completely disappear when you need a hand? Feel free to share your story if you've been through this. Sometimes putting it into words can free us from the expectations that once hurt us. These friends don't build relationships on love, but on calculation. They come to take, not to share. Once we understand this, we'll learn not to be hurt when they walk away. This realization doesn't harden our hearts. Instead, it brings us calm, shielding us from unnecessary pain. Remember, Stoicism advises us not to place our hopes in things beyond our control, including others' sincerity. A true friend won't disappear when you're in need, and Stoicism teaches us to be self-reliant, never dependent on others' presence. Be mindful and selective about who you let into your life. In the end, a genuine friendship will endure, not based on gain or circumstance, but on pure, heartfelt love. Sign 3. They only focus on themselves. After realizing that someone is consistently absent when you need help, the next common sign of a superficial relationship is a lack of balance in communication. A genuine person will take the time to listen and share, while those who are insincere often treat conversations as opportunities to talk solely about themselves. 30. Have you ever found yourself in a conversation that seemed to revolve entirely around the other person? They continually share stories about their lives, interrupt you, or show indifference to what you say, turning you into a reluctant listener in an unending monologue. This clearly indicates that their interest is one-sided and limited, focused only on themselves and what they consider important. Ask yourself, why are they so focused on speaking rather than listening? They might boast about their work, personal life, successes, or failures. If you try to share something, they may quickly interrupt or seem indifferent. Their goal is to be heard, but they have no intention of genuinely listening to anyone else. As Marcus Aurelius once reminded us, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. B1. Insincere people often spend more time boasting than striving to be genuinely good. Consider a typical scenario. You have a colleague who, whenever you meet, starts rambling on about everything from their current project to their recent vacation. When you try to share something about yourself, they swiftly redirect the conversation back to them. This behavior not only reflects selfishness, but also reveals a lack of sincerity in the relationship. The essence of such insincere individuals is that they seek recognition from others, desiring to monopolize attention. If someone genuinely cares about you, they will listen and respond sincerely. However, insincere people do not act this way. They interrupt you not out of interest or curiosity, but because they believe their opinions are more important. They lack the patience to wait for you to finish speaking, rushing to insert their own thoughts. This not only makes the conversation tense, but also creates a sense of distance. Another practical example is when you recount a difficult situation, such as facing pressure at work. Instead of empathizing and listening, that person quickly shifts to discussing the pressure they themselves are experiencing. They compare your problems to theirs, always returning the story to themselves. At that moment, you realize that this person is not a true friend. They have no intention of sharing your burden. They merely want to add to their own. Insincere individuals not only fail to listen, but also dismiss your feelings and thoughts. They lack the sensitivity to understand the emotions of others and rarely offer genuine encouragement. When you share something profound or sensitive, they tend to respond in a shallow manner or try to belittle what you've said. This isn't because they don't understand, it's because they don't want to. Have you ever shared a painful or challenging life event with a friend, only to have them dismiss it with, "Come on, it's not a big deal," or even ignore it entirely? Such attitudes show they are indifferent to the struggles you face. A true friend would never make you feel like a burden. They would take the time to listen, and even if they don't offer advice, would help you feel that your emotions are valid and respected. When you encounter someone who only talks about themselves, instead of feeling disappointed or angry, remind yourself that their behavior reflects immaturity. You don't need to respond to insincerity with negative emotions. They would take the time to listen, and even if they don't offer advice, at least they'll help you feel that your emotions are valued and respected. When you encounter someone who only talks about themselves instead of feeling disappointed or angry, remind yourself that their behavior reflects immaturity. You don't need to react negatively to insincerity. Instead, maintain a safe distance and understand that they won't bring positive value to your life. Once you recognize that someone is only interested in talking about themselves and has no genuine interest in you, apply Stoic philosophy as your response. First, remember that you have the power to choose which relationships are worth your time. You are not obligated to endure someone else's selfishness. Instead of getting caught up in this one-sided conversation, focus on those who genuinely care about you. Keeping your distance doesn't mean harboring hatred toward them. In fact, you are protecting your spirit from unnecessary negativity. Sign 4. They forget what you talk about. Have you ever shared a painful event or a meaningful experience with a friend, only to later realize that they don't remember anything you've said? Perhaps you spoke about a memorable life event or a major personal plan, yet to them, it seemed as though your words simply faded away. This kind of forgetfulness isn't just a minor slip-up. It often reveals that the person doesn't truly care about the conversation or about you. If you've ever had to repeat a story or emphasize details you once shared, you'll understand the discouragement that follows. For someone who truly listens, remembering isn't a chore. It's a natural act born of genuine care. I recall once sharing with a friend my excitement about starting a long-awaited course. It wasn't just any course. I had spent considerable time preparing for it, as it marked a new chapter in my life that I was ready to embrace. We sat over coffee, and I eagerly spoke about my hopes, what I wanted to learn, and the goals I aspired to achieve. It was the kind of open, heartfelt conversation I hoped would deepen our connection. Yet the next time we met, he didn't bring it up. Even when I gently hinted at it, he looked at me blankly, as though he hadn't heard anything about it before. In that moment, it dawned on me that perhaps I didn't hold a significant place in his life. If he had truly cared, I thought, he might have asked, "How's your course going? What have you learned so far?" But none of that happened. Reflecting on it, I realized that his forgetfulness wasn't just a simple lapse. When people care, they remember, because listening isn't merely hearing with the ears, it's hearing with the heart. As Seneca said, "If you wish to be loved, love." A true friend remembers not out of obligation, but because they genuinely care about you. After that experience, I began reassessing my relationships. I have another friend who, every time we meet, asks about even the smallest details I've mentioned before. Whether it's a new restaurant I wanted to try, or a short trip planned with family. These little things may seem trivial to others, but to me they signify that she's truly present and listening, not just in words, but in actions. She remembers, and that makes me feel valued and appreciated. In Stoicism, genuine and lasting relationships must be built on sincere interest and real listening. I began asking myself, is it worth holding on to relationships where the other person doesn't genuinely listen? Can I accept a friendship that lacks authenticity? The answer became clearer as I realized I didn't need to keep people who don't value me, and there's a peacefulness in learning to let go, reserving my time and energy for those who genuinely care. Since then, I've learned to appreciate the friends who are truly there for me, who remember every story and detail I've shared. These relationships may be few, but they are fulfilling and priceless. They are the ones who ask, "How was your trip?" and genuinely care about the answer, because they want to know. These are the friends I cherish, as they not only listen, but also stay in my life through joys and hardships. And so I remind myself that life is truly full and meaningful only when we are surrounded by those who truly understand and respect us. Sign 5, they always want something from you. When we encounter someone who can't remember the details of a conversation, it often signals indifference and a lack of genuine interest. This indifference isn't the end of it. Some people approach us not just with a shallow attitude, but with clear, self-serving motives. When someone contacts you only for what they can gain, it's time to be cautious. These individuals appear in your life, seeming to care, but if you look closely, you'll see that their actions primarily serve their own goals. They may ask about you, engage in deep conversations, or even stand by you through tough times. Yet upon closer observation, you'll realize that their help or concern often isn't rooted in kindness, but in obtaining something from you. They're always asking questions, delving into your life, not to share or understand, but to uncover weaknesses, needs, or assets you possess. For example, a friend might frequently inquire about your financial situation or work, but offers no support when you're struggling. They're not asking out of concern, but to see what benefit you might bring to them. If you meet people who frequently ask, "How's work going lately?" or "How did that investment you mentioned turn out?" ask yourself if these questions genuinely come from a place of care. They want information to exploit you when it suits them, rather than contributing to the relationship. In today's world, where many people are more inclined to take than to give, toxic relationships easily emerge. These people will do anything within their power to obtain what you have. They might pretend to be friends or even take advantage of your vulnerable moments to maintain a relationship that ultimately only serves their purposes. It's essential to reassess the relationships in your life. Ask yourself, where am I spending most of my time, energy, and resources? If the answer reveals that you are always the one giving, the one willing to sacrifice without receiving anything worthwhile in return, this is a clear sign of a manipulative relationship. In reality, some people are ready to drain your energy, resources, and even your kindness without a second thought. Stoicism teaches us to clearly discern the people in our lives. Ask yourself, why are they here with me? Stoics always encourage mindfulness, emphasizing that there are only two types of people: those who take more than they give, and those who strive to give more than they receive. Imagine you have a friend who frequently reaches out for help when facing problems, from trivial matters like seeking advice or needing someone to talk to larger issues like borrowing money or needing you to solve personal challenges. Initially, you might feel valued as a friend, only to realize this relationship is one-sided. When you need support or want to share something, they are suddenly busy or show little interest. Once you realize that you're surrounded by people who always take more than they give, it's time to step back and reevaluate that relationship. This doesn't mean you must sever all relationships, but it's about learning to recognize when a relationship is no longer healthy. The presence of those who only take won't contribute to your personal growth. Sign 6, they talk behind your back. In life, one of the hardest experiences is realizing that someone you trust or respect has been speaking poorly of you behind your back. For those who live by Stoicism, recognizing and facing this betrayal requires both clarity and a resilient heart. A calm mind that prevents such betrayals from disturbing your inner peace. Though clear evidence isn't always available, you can often sense when someone is talking behind your back through the tension that arises when you're around them. It's like an invisible, highly sensitive thread. You may not know exactly what they've said or to whom, but their behavior reveals hints. They might seem awkward, display passive-aggressive gestures like a forced smile, or subtly disregard what you say. You'll feel a barrier forming, a negative energy that's perceptible even without hearing the actual words. For instance, imagine a close colleague of yours who still exchanges polite smiles, but their gaze lacks sincerity, and their stories increasingly revolve around themselves while dismissing yours. Perhaps, somewhere within the office, they've shared unkind words about you, and this is now evident in their demeanor. Often, what others say about you reaches you indirectly, perhaps through a mutual friend, a close colleague, or even a casual remark from an acquaintance. While it can be disheartening, this is also an opportunity to see the true nature of the relationship. Pay attention, and you'll notice that those who gossip often display passive-aggressive behavior, subtly devaluing your achievements. When you share a success, they may ignore it or make remarks that cause self-doubt, like, "Oh, that's not really a big deal, is it?" These individuals might use words to distract and undermine, aiming to diminish your confidence. In times like these, Stoicism offers a perspective. Remember, it is not he who gives abuse or blows who affronts, but the view we take of these things as insulting. By letting such disparaging remarks affect you, you give others the power to influence your feelings. Let these words pass without concern, keeping your peace and focusing on what truly matters. When facing slander, it's easy to get drawn into a cycle of negative reaction. But Stoicism stresses the importance of controlling one's emotions and behavior. Ask yourself, does this truly matter? Do these words affect who I am? With confidence in your own value, you'll see that these negative remarks are mere background noise in your life. Those who talk behind your back are often motivated by envy or resentment, pulled into negativity by their own insecurities. Rather than getting caught up in their jealousy, focus on your own growth, refusing to let gossip disturb your mind. Stoicism doesn't teach us to sever every relationship just because someone has spoken poorly of us. Instead, it encourages self-focus, preserving self-respect, and not allowing others to disturb our inner peace. Remember, no matter what anyone says behind your back, their words don't alter your worth. By staying calm, steady, and self-respecting, you embody the true spirit of Stoicism, a spirit that seeks inner tranquility and rises above life's trivialities. When you realize that someone shifts their attitude just to please others, you must ask yourself, do they truly value me, or are they merely building a relationship for their own personal gain? A person lacking honesty will change themselves to fit those around them, and these changes not only reflect a lack of sincerity, but also show that they don't have stability in their own values. You can see them adjust their words, expressions, and behavior simply to gain favor with those they respect or fear. These actions might be subtle, but they're clear, such as praising you in private, yet ignoring you when more influential people are around. They will flatter those they deem important, while belittling you or others they consider inferior. A person who lives inauthentically has little regard for others beyond themselves. They'll easily shift their attitude and actions to achieve what they want from each individual, without much thought about the long-term consequences. Sign 7, they never share their true worries. There are people who always seem to wear a smile, projecting perfection in every situation, but if you look closely, you'll notice they never share their fears, mistakes, or their most vulnerable sides. They maintain a facade, creating an ideal mask to hide their authenticity. Such people are often not genuine with you. As Seneca wisely said, "A wise man is not afraid to admit his weaknesses, for that is the first step to becoming stronger." If someone consistently avoids discussing what truly worries them, it indicates they either do not trust you enough to open up, or they have no intention of building a sincere relationship. Ask yourself, when was the last time they shared a genuinely serious issue? If the answer is never, it's likely the relationship is not built on honesty. A person who truly trusts you won't be afraid to reveal their vulnerabilities because they understand that genuine friendship is built on mutual support, not artificial perfection. If you notice this sign, apply Epictetus's philosophy. Control what is within your power and release what is not. Don't expect them to change. Instead, focus on finding those who are willing to share the truth of their lives. Sign 8. They only show up when they need something. Some people in life only appear when they need help or seek to benefit from you. They may call you a friend, display friendliness and enthusiasm, but in truth, you're merely a tool in their eyes. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, "Do not let others drag you away from your path of integrity." Each person can only live truthfully by being loyal to their own nature. This sign is often evident in their actions. When they need something, a piece of advice, financial help, or a connection, they will seem caring, inquire about your well-being, and create a sense of closeness. Yet once their needs are fulfilled, they disappear, leaving you feeling empty and used. Ask yourself, do they ever reach out just to see if I'm okay, with no ulterior motive? If the answer is no, it's time to reevaluate the relationship. A true friend doesn't just appear when they need something. They stand by you even when there's nothing to gain. Follow Epictetus's wisdom. Happiness does not depend on others, but on how you perceive and handle things. Don't let these one-sided relationships erode your trust in others. Instead, focus on cultivating sincere connections, where both sides share and support each other equally. Sign 9. They change their words based on the situation. In life, it is not uncommon to encounter individuals who alter their attitude, words, or behavior depending on their audience or circumstances. Such people lack steadfast principles or sincerity, adjusting themselves merely to gain short-term benefits. Stoic philosophy regards this as a clear manifestation of inauthenticity, and Marcus Aurelius wisely observed, "Do not act contrary to your nature to please others." Shifting behavior for personal gain. One of the most evident traits of such individuals is their inconsistency in how they treat you, depending on the situation. In private, they might appear warm, complimentary, or even respectful. Yet in the presence of those they deem more significant, be it a superior, a celebrity, or someone influential, they quickly transform. They may ignore, belittle, or even badmouth you to elevate their own standing in the eyes of the others. For instance, you might have a colleague who regularly checks in on you via messages, showing apparent interest in your life, but during a group meeting, they fail to acknowledge your contributions or suddenly become distant. This kind of behavior not only leaves you feeling hurt, but also erodes trust in the relationship. Adapting words to suit the situation. People like this often modify their words to fit the occasion, regardless of the truth. To your face, they might call you a valued friend or a trustworthy ally. Yet when speaking to someone else, they might twist the narrative entirely, even distorting the truth to serve their own agenda. Seneca aptly remarked, The honest man does not need to bend his words. The truth itself holds sufficient power. Consider this scenario. A friend compliments you in private, but later you learn they've spoken ill of you to others. When confronted, they justify their actions as an attempt to maintain peace or avoid conflict. Such behavior not only signals a lack of sincerity, but also reveals a failure to live courageously, both in emotions and words. Impact on relationships. This kind of duplicity severely damages relationships, fostering doubt and insecurity. How can you trust someone whose true thoughts about you remain unclear? This behavior reflects selfishness and a disregard for the value of genuine relationships. Stoicism emphasizes the importance of consistency in actions and words. Marcus Aurelius counseled, "Live true to your character and principles, undeterred by the judgments of others." Inconsistent behavior undermines the foundation of trust and respect, essential to meaningful relationships. How to handle such people. Stoicism does not advocate confrontation or retaliation. Instead, it urges us to remain calm and evaluate whether the relationship is worth preserving. As Epictetus advised, focus on what is within your control and let go of what is not. Assess the relationship's value. Ask yourself, does this person bring positive value to my life? If the answer is no, consider creating distance. Do not let their behavior affect your self-worth. Their inconsistency reflects their character, not your value. Remind yourself, my dignity is not dependent on how others treat me. Learn to let go. If the relationship consistently brings disappointment, learn to detach. Seneca wrote, "It is not the loss itself that causes pain, but the thought that you cannot live without it." Sign 10. They act differently with different people. If you sense someone is constantly changing themselves based on the company they're in, ask yourself, do they truly value me, or are they just building a connection for personal gain? A person who can't live authentically with themselves cannot provide stability for those around them. If they're constantly shifting their attitude based on the presence of influential people, it shows they lack the courage to live authentically. They don't have the strength to hold on to their principles and sometimes lack any solid core values in life. Imagine a colleague who behaves warm and friendly when it's just the two of you, but then becomes arrogant and self-assured when a supervisor or high-level manager is around. They might even undermine you to make themselves look better. When you see this, don't let feelings of disappointment take over. Remember that people like this are living inauthentically. Stoicism advises us not to let negative emotions control our lives. Instead, we must maintain calm and gain a clear understanding of human nature. It's not their attitude that matters, but how you respond to the situation. Life is not always easy, but inner peace and mental resilience are what Stoicism teaches us to aim for. Have you ever noticed someone changing their attitude when influential people are around? They might seem indifferent to you when it's just the two of you, but when someone they think can benefit them is nearby, they become instantly enthusiastic and friendly. This is a clear sign of inauthenticity. These people are only concerned with the value others can bring to them. They often show up at events where they know powerful people will be, trying to impress and gain attention, but everything they do is merely to serve their personal interests, not to build a genuine connection. This is in direct contrast to what Marcus Aurelius taught us about living truthfully and in harmony with one's nature. Imagine a real-world scenario. You have a good job, stable income, and social standing, and your friends and partners seem ready to support you, eager to accompany you. But one day you lose that job or face a significant setback, and suddenly those same people are no longer by your side. They become busier, less attentive, and may even avoid you altogether. This is one of the clearest signs of a fake friend. It's hard not to feel disappointed when you realize that those close to you, the ones you thought would stand by you through every trial, turn their backs when you face a challenge. But if we follow the Stoic philosophy, we understand that disappointment isn't inevitable. In fact, disappointment arises only when we place too much expectation on something beyond our control, on others. When you understand your own worth and live by your principles, you will not easily allow insincere relationships to disturb your life. When you realize that these friends don't truly care, Instead of feeling angry or sad, learn to view the situation calmly and wisely. A Stoic does not let themselves be swept away by negative emotions. They understand that the actions of others are not the most important thing. Rather, it is how they respond and maintain inner peace that truly matters. Take time to reflect and ask yourself, can I live without these people in my life? If the answer is yes, you'll realize that this loss isn't truly a loss, but a release from relationships that no longer bring value to your life. A true friend is someone who will stand by you not just when you succeed, but also when you fail. A true friend is someone who will help you without hesitation, without calculating, and without expecting anything from you. In contrast, fake friends will only be around when you bring them some benefit. When you have nothing left to offer, they will leave. Remember that a relationship where you give your all but receive indifference and coldness is a relationship not worth keeping. You deserve to have true friends, people who will love you unconditionally, who will remember what you've shared, and who will stand by you through all circumstances. And so, learn to let go of relationships that no longer serve you. Don't hold on to them out of obligation or the fear of losing them. Instead, seek out the true friends who will support and encourage you on your journey. Life is about the quality of relationships, not the quantity. If you've come to realize that some people in your life aren't worth holding on to, accept that and move forward. Remember, inner peace never comes from relying on others. Only when you live authentically and with strength in yourself can you truly find freedom.